What's going on, faithful? Thanks so much for joining me once again on the Gilded Gang Podcast. Really appreciate you checking out my channel. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like the content and continue that great debate on the comment section about anything and everything 49ers, right? And today I was, scrolling through my timeline and I saw this and I really wanted to talk about it on the show. So, uh, for those of you who can obviously see the screen up there, we're talking about retired numbers. And so I just thought it was really interesting, and it was interesting to see the question that I saw on the timeline was what 49er would you pick if you could to retire their number? I mean, for me, honestly, I've got one main guy and then and one guy that I have to say is like my honorable mention. But before I get into those guys, I definitely want to talk about who already are the retired players, right? So that's the main thing I want to do right now. So with that, let me go ahead and start and just scroll down here a little bit. So just to kind of give you guys a rundown, and I know again most of you guys probably already know this or at least know most of them. There's a few of them that I honestly just kind of blanked on and forgot about just because again it was before my time, before my era. But definitely when I looked at the names, I was like, oh yeah, I know who that is. But I didn't realize that they were already retired. So again, Brody I knew about. So obviously Steve Young, John Brody, Joe Cool, obviously, Joe Perry, I remembered as well. Jimmy Johnson, McElhenney. I think I remembered it only because again, it's up on the stadium too, and sometimes when I'd go to games, I would see that up there as well. So 39, big number 39, Hugh McElhenney, and then here's where it gets. So Ronnie Lott, of course, I knew, but here's where it gets a little more interesting. Big Charlie Kruger, um, Leo the Lion Nomalini. So number 73, Bob St. Clair, 79. So some of these guys from the Kezar days are the ones that sometimes I blank a little bit on. Not their names, but their numbers and the fact that they were definitely already retired. And so just knowing all of these guys. And then of course some of the more contemporary ones are closer to, our era, my era, especially in the early 90s for me, late 80s, early 90s, more early 90s than late 80s. I was still pretty little, but obviously I know a lot of these guys and I've seen them countless times, not just Jerry, but Dwight Clark, the late great Dwight Clark. So, 80, 87, and I think that's it. Okay. So these were, and I'll actually go from the end and move it up kind of slowly so you can kind of see the retired numbers, and then just kind of go through your mental Rolodex, as we like to say, right? Of who you would select. I think there's some great candidates. I mean, just from the '80s alone, I was thinking of guys like John Taylor, '82. I was thinking of, and again, this is they're 49ers, right? I mean, we're not talking about who should be in the hall or anything like that, but just great 49ers, and he's an underrated one. Probably not someone that automatically people go, oh, go retire his number, but he was a great 49er. He was a 49er for a long, long time. So he was really the Robin to Jerry's Batman there for many, many years. So, that's something to keep in mind. And then the other one for me, the one that's more of a slam dunk that it's not up here is Roger Craig. So number 33, Roger Craig. You obviously have Tom Rathman, who was blocking for him. That's number 44, Juice's number. So Juice would have to pick a different number, right? So there are some things to think about, but just it's such a great list, and so it's interesting to see some of these numbers up here and think, nobody else is wearing these numbers, right? No one else can. So yeah, it's interesting too for me when I look at quarterback numbers. I always, number 12 has become such a popular one, with Brady and Rodgers and these guys becoming such great stars the last 15, 20 years. But there was a time there where you look at, John Brody taking number 12. It wasn't this big thing yet, right? And I believe I want to say Joe Namath is also number 12, right? So there was some great number 12s back in the day, back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, but they weren't the number you'd pick. And I think the one, growing up to me, I remember number 8 a lot, obviously with Steve Young. And then I think the other one, it was just a big rival, was Favre wearing number 4. I thought it was so weird because it's such a low. kind of number, in terms of, it's just one of the first few numbers to pick from, and he made it into his own, right? He made it into his own brand, and so just like Steve did. And then again, to me though, the quarterback number, and it's of course my big bias is because I'm a diehard Niner fan, is Joe Montana's number 16. I think seeing a quarterback wear that number, I think we had someone in high school who actually picked that number as well. And it just, to me, that's synonymous with, a great quarterback is that number. So I find it interesting that we don't see more QBs these days picking 16. I know Josh Allen has 17, which I think is kind of a interesting number. I don't know how popular, how famous it's been over time. I think he's making it very popular and famous now, but just in sports in general, not just football. But with 16, it just, again, it looked good, and it's just that was a good number to me. And growing up, I looked at obviously Steve Young's number 8, and then just double that up, and you get 16 with Joe Cool. So just a really cool number in general. Um, for me though, and honestly, I didn't plan this at all, but I actually am wearing a t-shirt that has my favorite number on it. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's number 5. So I just happen to put that as my t-shirt, that I have. And so, so that's my number. It's my number is number 5. I also like 13, ironically enough. So obviously the two quarterbacks we have right now are 5 and 13 battling it out, but 13 is because my birthday is on the 13th day, and so that's a good number to me. It's maybe unlucky to a lot of people historically, but to me, I like that number. But for me, 5 has always been my number. So again, I wanted to explore this kind of stuff and see what you guys